strategic and long-term perspective to longevity. As managing director of the Thalion Initiative, he's helping advance some of the promising work and research by supporting organizations and initiatives with real impact. His commitment to building, protecting, and accelerating progress has made him an important force in the field. Please help me welcome Todd White. Thank you. Okay, so before talking about the Thalion Initiative, I thought I'd take a minute to kind of set the stage. And we talked about this a little bit earlier speakers. From my perspective, always in that area. And one of the things in the past probably 6 months I've been talking to a number of philanthropic endeavors that are attending to in the country. And one of the points that I've made today, and it's one that I think as a field we should make more often, is the fact that if you look at why we're doing aging biology, and if you consider, say, the past 60 or 80 years of medical evolution, we've dealt with a lot of the things that kill us on a day-to-day basis, right? So the first phase was public health, right? Clean drinking water, food security, sanitation, and that did a lot for improving our overall lifestyle. And then, if you look at the next 100 years, we dealt with the three big things: toxins, viruses, bacteria. And that brings us kind of where we are today in the 1960s, 1980s. If you talk to most clinicians, they'll say we have tools in our toolbox to deal with those things. But everything else starts to become much more complicated. And it's sort of a plateau, and that plateau comes down to aging. So we've talked about this, various people have touched on this in different ways. Over 70% of global mortality is directly related to conditions and diseases that come after aging. This is global. Now, actually, we had a conversation earlier this week in preparation for this, and Paul Frederick pointed out the fact that this is actually higher in the United States. Almost 90% is actually age-related, because some of the conditions that exist in other countries are not so prevalent here. So, now I want to talk about some problems with that. One of the things is we have a problem at this point in medical innovation that a lot of preclinical drug assets never make it through FDA approval. Now, there's a couple of different reasons for that. Some of it is regulatory, and we talked about that. But the other point is that there's large aspects of biology that we do not totally understand. We have some incredibly good guesses, some incredibly interesting data that lead us to believe certain things, but we don't have full answers to that. And one of the other things that we're noticing is that R&D productivity is dropping. Some of you probably heard the term Moore's Law. It was work done by Jack Spinell, where it indicates that the cost of developing drugs doubles every 9 years. Currently, on average, it's $2.1 billion to get a drug all the way through the FDA approval. It varies depending on the type of medicine that you're doing. So we have some fundamental gaps. And these fundamental gaps, if solved, opens it up for everybody to get into. I put this chart up because this is kind of an interesting one as well. There's been some work talking about how we're getting into decline in scientific destruction. There's fewer patents, less innovation in papers are becoming very incremental and what we're moving forward. There's not a lot of disruption. But aging biology is the one area where you can get disruptive technology. So that brings me to the Thalion Initiative. So I'll give you a bit of history. In 2019, I was invited to a meeting. And I don't come from a biology background. I come from actually becoming a chemical engineer, came from the telecommunications industry. But you notice that a lot of the people that fund longevity comes from tech industry. And during that conversation that happened, and it was a group of advisors who actually advised fairly wealthy people, and the question was, how many of your clients are involved in the longevity therapeutics or longevity science, one of your companies? And if not, why not? So So that was about a 6-hour conversation over a day. And there were a whole bunch of different schools of thought, but there were two things that came up. One, nobody believed that we could turn enough in the science to believe that their money would actually move the needle. And two, nobody gave them a credible plan. Nobody has ever come up to them and said, here's the plan, here's how we solve it. So I thought that was a rather interesting thing. So that was in September of 2019, and by March of 2020, a lot has changed because COVID came out, things were locked down, and this idea of putting together a plan that would work. Come forward to the beginning of last year, and we decided to revive this step. And so we invited a bunch of aging researchers into a room and said, forget what you do in your lab. You don't want to talk about what you're doing with your lab. Tell us what are the key questions that we have to solve to move the entire field forward. And we got them to Birmingham, England. We spent 3 days then and had weekly meetings from then on for 8 months. And at the end of it, we had a list of questions, and from that, a set of experiments and projects that we needed to do to advance the entire field. And the idea was, if we did these research, what would it be, what would the people who were excited, who went to ARDB or came here, and gave results, what would excite people? And those were the projects that came out of it. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out, everything that's now in the list of the team is not translational. So it's in no way competitive or in any way sort of directly related to the people in this room set up and doing it. It is all fundamental research. And what we realized is that by doing this fundamental research, this is going to help everybody. And that was the intent. Everything is milestone-based funding, so these are very specific projects, and I'll talk a little bit about them. And it's a long-term view. It's in the plan. It's already preset, already written, and it's the first of 3 phases of the plan possible. So we have 4 pillars of research. One is comparative biology, which is long-lived animals. I think we talked about this. We have mice over 3 years, we have open whales over 200 years, 3 sharks, 400. Nature's already figured it out. Evolution is kind of piece. We just need to understand what that is. Number 2 is embryogenesis. Michael talked about that. If we have aged parents, 30s, 40s, baby comes out, so nature again has that to do. Synthetic biology. Even if we come up with therapies, we need to figure out how to deliver them, we need to figure out how to deal with that, and a lot of this comes down to epigenetic reprogramming, and then AI, computational modeling. One of the things that we have done some work on is we realize that a lot of data that we work with, especially for AI, is pretty good. It's not, it's got a lot of noise in it. It's very hard. We've got data sets that are captured over different time periods, different technologies, different genomics. The technology is developed. There's problems with that, and it causes artifacts. So cleaning this up. Just to give you a sense, our project plan for phase 1 is $710 million over the next 8 years on 16 projects. So, what is the Thalion initiative about? It's all global big science projects. So these are things that are beyond the resources of a single project, a single grant, a single nature thing. Every single one of our projects has been a collaboration by multiple PIs from different universities. So just the scope of the project, we couldn't do it internally like that. Milestone Open Science, all of this data will be available. It's going to be produced and made available to people. And we brought in people outside of biology. We brought in physicists. We brought in mathematicians. You may have recently, some of you may have heard of some practice in geophysics, which is what's become sort of a new little involving physicists to try to get more deterministic physics-based evaluation of biology. So, now, of course, we're born in Washington, so I'd like to just touch on the political and government projects. Thalion Initiative has nothing to philanthropic funding. There's no U.S. funding from the government at all. However, there are certain things that the government is very good at. Big projects. So if you think about some of the big projects, keep on your mind. In this space, everybody says we needed a Manhattan Project solution. Right? That's been the common thing. The other thing is the human genome project. $3 billion to sequence 92% of the genome, then we kind of $50 million to get that last 8%. But that was a huge investment. A lot of money came from the UK, we were partners between NIH and, of course, Craig Ventures. So that project has opened up a lot of fields. It's the technology that now allows us to do a genome for $100 is developed during the course of that project. We need more of those. And government funding is well suited to that. And so it provides the funding. You don't see an economic benefit immediately, so it's not really a private equity kind of play, but it does get space for it. So, again, the Thalion issue is operating its own. We have our own funding. We are producing a number of these projects. But going forward, I think that it's important, in addition to the regulatory side, with the FDA, to the translational side, projects like ARPA-H, and also fundamental and basic research is extremely important. So, with that, thank you. And move on.
So for those projects that are looking for funding, what's the mechanism, or how does that, is it funded, or what is it?
Yeah, so all of our projects are currently eligible funding. So what happened is, it wasn't like if we don't offer grants, what we had is we had a number of researchers come together and say, how do we solve this particular biological problem? Okay, we need this data set, we need this experiment. So just to give you an example, one of the projects is a large mammalian biobank, right, with all of the omics. Then the other part of that project is iPSCs for all of those species. So that won't be a resource that's available. It'll be a global biobank of animal species. We have 200 mammalian species that we're focused on initially, but we're opening it up to anybody that wants to put samples in. So, you think colossal, what have you, dire wolf flow, you kind of do that kind of thing from that biobank. That's just one example.
Question on baby data. There's been a lot of baby data coming back from outer space, so the PWS3 or even Voyager 1, but nobody could make sense of it until the report was put on a computing chips on it, all of a sudden being what it was. I think the same is going to be true in biology, that we can leverage that technology. So we're looking to try to partner with Microsoft and get access to it. I suspect maybe you're thinking the same thing.
Yeah, we have actually had access. So one of our projects is a very large data processing cluster in Quantum. We actually have that